Hi, Neil O'Brien again. We're on Finance 4 and it's break-even sales. Now, this is a figure that describes, or I suppose this figure calculates the minimum amount of sales a business needs to do to cover all its costs. And it's a key figure, especially at the moment, costs are creeping up. So for a lot of businesses, your break-even sales point is increasing because your costs are increasing, your sales need to be higher. Cover your bills, you need more clients, etc. And a quick example on this, I worked with a restaurant once and the owner had no interest in numbers or counts or whatever, but I explained to him about break-even. He liked the idea of it and I worked it out. And his number was that he needed 225 customers a week just to cover all his costs, to cover his rent, his electricity, his staff, his food costs, etc. And knowing that was a game changer for him because he got totally focused on how many people he needed to have through the restaurant every day. He kept a track on it every week. So if he hit his break even 225 customers by 7 o'clock on a Saturday, he knew everything after that was profit. And it got him and his whole team really focused on the number side of the business. And that's what break even is. I'm going to take you through two scenarios. So there's a product business and there's a service business. I'm going to take you through an example of a product business shortly because it's a little bit different. With a product business, you have your materials they're buying in. So that'll vary. If your sales are higher, you'll buy in more materials. If it's lower, you need less material. So there's a different formula for working that out. It's a bit more straightforward for a service business. If you're a service business, like 8 out of 10 businesses out there are, your break-even point, your total cost of your break-even point, and your costs are what we call overheads. They're typically fixed, even though, as I said earlier on, they're going up at the moment, but typically they don't change a huge amount. Your salaries, your rent, etc., your marketing, your phones, insurance. Now, it is important though, as I said, break-even is important for a startup. It's important during a downturn because your sales may drop 30–40%. You need to cut your costs. You need to know what your break-even point is. At the moment, costs have gone up and wages have gone up and the cost of getting in goods and freight and everything is going up. The cost of everything has gone up, as I'm sure you know. So for example, a service business, an accountant whose costs were 10,000 last year are now 12,000. Now, if an average client to them is 1,000, then last year they needed 10 clients per month. If their costs have gone up to 12,000, they now need 12 clients per month. That's an extra 20% of clients. So it's important to know what our break-even point is. For a service business, it's your total costs. And I suppose the main point here is to know every month what your total costs are. You have to make sure you're hitting that at a minimum. If you're not, you're losing money. And no business can afford to do that for too long. Now, here's an example of a product business. Jim is furniture business. He makes mostly chairs. Okay, his overheads are 5,000. That means his rent, his rates, electricity, staff, etc. All his costs, excluding his material costs, are 5,000. Every time Jim makes a chair, he'll buy in the parts, the material, the timber, the foam, and so on. Those supplier costs are separate from his overheads. Now here's Jim's gross margin. This is important to know in our calculation. If he sells a chair for 100 euros, his material costs are 40. So he has 60 left. That's called a gross profit. Gross margin is the percentage, and that 60 has to go towards paying his 5,000 fixed costs. So how many chairs does Jim need to sell to cover pay his overhead so that he's breaking even? He's not losing money, he's not making a profit, but at least he's covering all his costs. How we work it out is we take our overheads and divide it by the gross margin. That's 5,000 divided by 60% or 5,000 divided by 0.6. If you want to grab your calculator, you can work this out if you're so inclined, just to see that it works. You take 5,000 divided by 60% or divided by 0.6, you should get 8,333. Okay, I'm going to round that up to 8,400. That means that if Jim's sales are 8,400, that means he can pay all his supplier costs, all his timber and all his parts, and he can pay his 5,000 overheads. What does that mean for Jim? It means 8,400. If what he sells in the month are chairs, then he needs to make and sell 84 chairs per month. That's 21 chairs per week, or just over 4 per day. And the great thing about this number is that even if Jim, like a lot of business people, has no interest in numbers or costs or whatever margins, okay, he will know what he does in his workshop. Okay, he knows to make chairs, he'll know about that. So if we turn around and work this out and say to Jim, right, Jim, you need to make 21 chairs a week, you need to make 4 chairs a day, 84 chairs a month, Jim can focus on that. And he knows if he makes 21 chairs by 5 o'clock on a Thursday, then all the chairs he makes and sells on a Friday are profit. If Jim makes 21 chairs a week, he covers his costs. If he makes 15 chairs a week, he loses money. If he does 25, 26 chairs a week, he's in profit. Break even, it's a key figure to know, and it's changing at the moment. So what I encourage you to do is work it out. You should know it anyway, but particularly at the moment with costs going up, work it out and know the minimum you need to do every month just to cover your costs. Okay, obviously we're in business to make a profit, and that's the aim. So if your break even is 100, you want to be doing 110, 120, but it's important to know what it is, because you may be doing below it. If you're doing below it, you need to get it back to break even. If you're losing money, you need to get it back to break even. If Jim was doing 7,000 sales per month, he's losing money. He needs to do 8,400 to cover all his costs, and then more than that for profit. Okay, thanks for listening.